On February 14, 2017, the bodies of Abigail Williams, age 13, and Liberty German, age 14, were discovered near the Monon High Bridge Trail, which is part of the Delphi Historic Trails in Delphi, Indiana. The girls were reported missing the previous day after going for a hike on the trails. The murders have received significant media coverage because a video and audio recording of an individual believed to be the girl's killer was found on Libby's smartphone. Despite thousands of tips that have been sent to the police and the circulation of the recordings of the suspect, no arrest in the case has been made to date. Liberty, who went by Libby, shared an interest in photography with her best friend Abby, which is one of the reasons they wanted to go on a nature walk. Her shares on social media and recordings on her phone are the reason that there is information about the person responsible for their deaths. Abby was dropped off with her friend Libby around 1:35 p.m. near the Monon High Bridge. They planned to walk the trail and hang out, a popular thing to do in the area. Abby and Libby didn't show up when they were supposed to be picked up, resulting in a search led by police. The Monon Railroad was built through Carroll County from 1879 to 1881, and the first train went over the High Bridge in January of 1881. This route went from Chicago to Indianapolis and was called the Airline Route. The High Bridge over Deer Creek is the second highest in the state at 63 feet, and it is 853 feet long. The bridge has such a presence as it sits silent over Deer Creek some 63 feet below. The Monon High Bridge has 6 platforms jutting out in an alternating pattern of left and right periodically across the bridge. The angle of approach and side of bridge can be deduced based on the platform's visible and distinctive foliage in the video. CSX Transportation ceased its use of the railroad in 1987. At the time of the homicides, the bridge was still owned by CSX, but was unofficially used by the community as a public trail. Since the homicides, Indiana Landmarks has taken ownership of the land, and after planned restoration has completed, it will officially be added to the Delphi Historic Trails. The Monon High Bridge Trail is 1.44 miles long. The bridge was a common backdrop for photo shoots like senior pictures and wedding photos. It was a place known to be a hangout for young people, and Libby had been there many times before. Why did we let them go out there? Well, that's because that's where all the kids were. There were kids there before them, there were kids there during, and there were kids there after. Mike Patty, Libby's grandfather. The offender approached them from the northwestern side, moving southeast towards them on the bridge. The initial contact specifically happened right at the end of the bridge on the southeast end, where it stops being a bridge and becomes a trail again. If it could speak, this bridge would have much to say as what transpired on that cool February day in 2017. It has been theorized that the offender pulled a weapon or found a way to make the girls comply with his orders by using some sort of a ruse. According to an audio snippet from the Libby video recording, at some point the offender says to them, "Guys, down the hill." The path the girls and the offender took after leaving the bridge is unknown. At the bottom of the hill, they would have had to cross a private driveway, and then moving further north, they would have reached Deer Creek. This section was relatively shallow, and during certain seasons, it acts as a sandbar. Estimations of the depth range from ankle deep to knee deep in this area. It is on the other side of Deer Creek that the bodies are found. Libby's grandmother, Becky, has said call records show Derek called Libby at 3:11 p.m., intending to tell them that he was getting close and they should start heading back to be picked up. As a point of reference, Derek remembers he was just starting to drive over the Wilson Bridge when he makes this 3:11 p.m. call. No one answers his call. Derek knows it's not like Liberty to ignore his texts and phone calls, especially when she was expecting him to call. He parks his car and begins walking the trails to search for the girls. At this point in time, the family is thinking the girls had somehow gotten hurt on the trail, from a fall perhaps, and that Libby's phone has been damaged. Derek reaches the point where the trails intersect, and he stops a man dressed in a flannel shirt who was approaching the intersection coming from the 501 trail. Derek asks the man with the flannel shirt, "Did you happen to see two girls up there?" motioning towards the bridge. And the man replied, "No, I did not, but there is a couple on the bridge." This man with a flannel shirt later becomes a key witness in this case, and he is among the first to give a witness account to law enforcement. Online discussion groups have nicknamed him Flannel Shirt Guy, or FSG. Because Flannel Shirt Guy did not see the girls on the 501 trail, Derek starts walking the other trail that leads directly down to the Deer Creek edge, called the 501 trail. Derek does not see the girls on the 505, so he returns back up to the trail intersection. Derek calls his mother, Becky, and tells her about not being able to contact or find the girls. Derek asks Becky to try to contact them. Tara, Libby's aunt, was with Becky at the time. Both Becky and Tara start repeatedly calling and texting Libby. They receive no response. From the trail intersection, Derek walks down the trail leading to the Freedom Bridge. After not seeing the girls there, he turns around and heads back to the intersection, passing the Flannel Shirt Guy along his way back. At 4 p.m., Derek returns to his car at the parking area. Tara drives straight to the trail, while Becky makes a few calls before leaving. Becky calls her husband, Liberty's grandfather, Mike, who was at work in Lafayette, Indiana, and alerts him to the situation. Mike decides to take off work and drive to the trail to help search. Becky calls Kelsey and alerts her to the situation. Kelsey says she'll call her work and delay her work shift by a few hours so she could help search. Kelsey leaves her boyfriend's house and starts driving to the trail. Tara drives up to the parking area and Derek gets into her car. He explains to Tara the details of where and what he has searched on the trail so far. They briefly wait in the car for Becky and Mike to arrive so they can plan out who will search where and cover more ground. Reports of seeing Derek talking to someone in an unknown car in the parking area were at one time used to cast unfounded suspicion on him in online discussion chat groups. As Becky is about to leave for the trail, Libby's uncle, Cody, arrives. Becky informs him of what was going on and they drive to the trail together. They theorize about which path the girls would have taken if they were trying to walk home. They drive the two possible paths that the girls could have taken, but they do not see them. At this point in time, the family is thinking the girls have somehow gotten hurt. Becky and Cody arrive at the parking area, but there are no available parking spots, so they park in a ditch nearby, close to the Mears farm. It should be noted that there were several non-family vehicles and people at the trail at this time. The family members Mike, Becky, Derek, Tara, Cody, and Kelsey meet up and start searching the area for the girls. Kelsey and Cody cross the Monon High Bridge and arrive at the southeast end. They can see down a hill to the private driveway. They spend 20 to 30 minutes yelling the girls' names from there, but hear no response. From this location, Kelsey calls Libby's phone. She believes the call went through because she can hear it ring on her own phone's speaker. But Kelsey does not hear it ringing in the area. Kelsey's personal belief was the trail area was quiet enough that if the phone had been near where she was standing, she would have heard it ringing. It is possible that Libby's phone was set to silent or vibrate. 5:20 p.m., the family calls the police, and Libby and Abby are officially reported missing. As they walk, Becky calls the cell phone company AT&T and asks if they could ping Libby's phone to locate it. AT&T says they could not do that for legal reasons. Becky then asks AT&T about cell phone tracking apps like Find My iPhone and Find My Droid, which would allow them to track the phone. Because of a misunderstanding, Becky ends up downloading the app herself, and it takes a bit for it to become clear that because the phone that Libby had with her didn't have the app, that this method would not help. "5 p.m. The time window given by law enforcement for when the offender drives his vehicle away from the parking lot ends. However, this time window should be taken as a very rough, loose estimate. The route the offender takes to get back to the vehicle is unknown. Whether the time when the offender returned to the vehicle is the same time that he drove it away is also unknown." "5:20 p.m. The family calls the police, and Libby and Abby are officially reported missing. 5:25 p.m., Becky has been unable to get a hold of Abby's mom, Anna, by phone. Becky drives to Anna's house, and she is told Anna is at work. Mike calls Becky. He informs her the police requested for them both to drive to the police station as a standard part of filling out a missing persons report. Becky starts driving to Anna's work. Anna calls her, having just gotten a chance to check her phone. Becky fills her in, and they decide to meet up at the police station. The police arrive on scene and start searching quickly after the 5:20 call. Some family members use social media to ask for volunteers to help in the search for the girls. 6 p.m. A massive search begins. Having heard of the missing girls through social media, concerned residents show up and aid in the search, in coordination with the Carroll County Sheriff's Department, the Delphi Police Department, and Delphi Fire Department. The fire station is used as a staging ground for volunteers. Together, they search the trail and surrounding area. Meanwhile, Libby's sister Kelsey goes to the police station where they ask her about what she remembers from dropping the girls off earlier. Kelsey also shows the police the 2 Snapchats posted to Libby's story. At some point, Mike returns to the house to gather all electronics, iPads or iPods or computers or anything electronic, and the relevant cell phone information so the police could start requesting AT&T to ping Libby's phone. The official sanctioned search is called off by law enforcement at midnight due to darkness and a concern for volunteer safety. The search is planned to resume the next morning. Carroll County Sheriff Tobe Lesenby says in a news release that there is no reason to suspect foul play or to believe the girls are in any immediate danger. The biggest concern is exposure to the elements, and they have youth on their side. Firefighters and civilians unofficially continued to search through the night along with family members. This will be a contention for the next 4 years as to why the search was called off when the temperatures were below freezing and the girls were not properly dressed for the elements. Mike drives Becky home to get some sleep. Along their drive, they observe many flashlights and people everywhere. After dropping Becky off, Mike comes back to the trail to continue searching. "4:32 a.m. On-the-scene news reporter says people were back out searching for the girls early in the morning. In the meantime, we've seen other folks come out. We've seen family. We just saw another group who doesn't even know the girls come out because they heard the story and wanted to come out and help. They're out here with flashlights, searching, doing anything they can. There's been so much pressure to try and find these 2 young girls since they went missing yesterday afternoon." Naomi Peskovitz, reporter at WTHR 13. 6 a.m. More on-the-scene reporting near the trail reported. Online folks are saying they are still out searching even though it's dark. It's early in the morning and the official crews, law enforcement, they have stopped their search for the evening and they'll continue when the sun comes up. Naomi Peskovitz, reporter at WTHR 13. 12:15 p.m. Libby's sister Kelsey went on the infamous indie podcast hosted by Joe Malillo and described the 2 search parties in the area during the discovery. The fire department split us up into groups and we went to different places. Some of them were in town in Delphi. Some of them were like way out in the country near the High Bridge, but nowhere my sister would have went voluntarily. My group that went to High Bridge and another group that was also at High Bridge on the other side of the bridge. Three of us chose to cross the bridge, to look underneath the bridge on the opposite side, and that's where I ended up hearing that we found the bodies. When you were there, do you remember what you saw, Kelsey? At High Bridge? Yes, right when they found the bodies. Okay. Well, first off, I was standing on the trail that's right under the bridge, looking out into the woods, and somebody yelled up that they'd found a shoe. And when they had found the shoe, they asked what kind of shoes the girls were wearing. And they yelled out the type of shoe that Libby was wearing. So I yelled down and told them that it was hers. Actually, then the person that had asked that had put up their phone and saw 2 deer in the ground moving. And so he was looking to see what it might be. And he saw 2 deer standing up there. And when he saw them, he moved the camera down, and there is where we found them. Did you actually ever go and see them up close at that point? Kelsey: At that point, I had not. I wanted to. I wanted to run towards them, but the girl that was with me in my group held on to me and told me, "We don't know who they are yet. And we don't know that it's them. We don't know what they look like. We don't know. We don't know anything that's happening right now, so you can't go to them." So she just kind of held on to me and made sure that I stayed there, so I wouldn't go towards it. In a Fox 59 article, Becky Patty recounts the discovery. He saw something. He could not figure out what it was. There were 2 deer standing up there. But as he looked up to see what that was, that is when he saw them, said Libby's grandmother, Becky Patty. It was a volunteer searcher who discovered the bodies of the Delphi teens lying in the grass between a group of trees deep in the woods. He called his wife, who was with us, and said, "We found them." My sister came up and she was crying, and she said, "I am so sorry," said Becky Patty. The Indie Channel wrote an article describing the location where the bodies were found as such. The bodies were found on a private property about 50 feet from the shore of Deer Creek. A set of footprints are what led volunteers to the area the bodies were found. The exact body disposal location has never been released by law enforcement. Whether the homicide location and the body disposal location are one and the same is unknown. All that is known publicly is the initial site of the encounter, the southeast end of the bridge, is not the same location as where the bodies were discovered. Law enforcement has said that the disposal area was a half a mile from the end of the bridge and across the Deer Creek. It is possible to get a rough estimate of where the bodies were based off placement of crime scene tape in the woods. 2 p.m., a joint press conference is held by law enforcement with Indiana State Police Public Information Officer Kim Riley, Carroll County Sheriff Tobe Lesenby, and Delphi Police Chief Steve Mullins. They announced that 2 bodies had been found, but they do not confirm the identities of the bodies as Abby and Libby. They said search efforts will now be scaled back. They said the matter is now being investigated as a crime scene and that they suspect foul play. When asked by a reporter, "Why do you believe there is foul play?" Kim Riley responded, "Just the way the bodies were found. That's all I can say at this point in time." And when asked, "Were they in the water?" he responded, "They were on the edge of the water, from what I understand. That's about the best that I can tell you." Wednesday, February 15th, 2017, 8 a.m. The autopsies begin in Terre Haute on the bodies that were discovered during Tuesday's search. Noon. The autopsies are completed. Some other local news sources list this time as 10 a.m. Local authorities convene a meeting after to discuss the findings. The autopsies are completely sealed as this is an active investigation. Online, there are supposed text messages detailing the manner of how they were found, allegedly sent by a family member. However, it is easy to fake screenshots, and it is easy to photograph a fake screenshot displayed on a phone. The supposed screenshots of text messages cannot be verified in any way. Furthermore, law enforcement has made it clear in interviews that they do not want to publicly disclose these details. Details of this manner are usually withheld to filter out false confessions and to ensure a guilty verdict in a future criminal trial. Law enforcement has recovered DNA from the crime scene. Whether law enforcement is sure the DNA they have is definitively the offender's is unknown. The quality of the DNA collected is also unknown. On February 23, 2017, Sheriff Tobe Lesenby gave an interview, and based on this interview, some media outlets wrote articles, such as the one written by CBS 4 Indiana stating, Lesenby wouldn't go into specifics about forensic evidence in the case, although he did say investigators had requested that DNA evidence be fast-tracked. He later would say this, Carroll County Sheriff Tobe Lesenby is clearing up some misconceptions about the Delphi double homicide case released by other media outlets on Friday. Tobe Lesenby says he has never confirmed DNA evidence was recovered in this case. 3 p.m., Indiana State Police and the Carroll County Sheriff's Department hold a news conference confirming that the bodies found Tuesday are those of Liberty and Abigail. They say the case is being investigated as a double homicide. Initially, law enforcement released stills from this video of the suspect. On February 19, 2017, law enforcement labeled the man in the image a prime suspect. They later released 2 more stills from the video. On April 22, 2019, law enforcement will release about 1 second of video of which the previous stills had been taken from. Law enforcement said Libby started to video record before criminal behavior began to occur. And to get more specific, on February 22, 2017, Indiana State Police Sergeant Tony Slocum said, "This young lady is a hero. There's no doubt to have enough presence of mind to activate that video system on her cell phone to record what we believe is criminal behavior that's about to occur." On February 22, 2017, Indiana State Police released audio taken from Libby's phone, presumably taken from the video she was taking. Whether the released video and the released audio coincide in time is unknown, but seems unlikely. The clip is a male voice saying, "Down the hill." On April 22, 2019, a longer version of this clip is released with the voice saying, "Guys, down the hill." Whether "guys" word directly preceded the "down the hill" part, or if some audio of the girls talking was removed, is a subject of debate online. Surprisingly, all of this speculation about if the attack has been recorded, well, Sheriff Tobe Lesenby was asked point blank, was the attack recorded in a video interview? He answered that it was not. Sergeant Holman tells us investigators have more audio from Libby's phone, which was found with the girls at the crime scene. The quote above was written by reporter Alexis McAdams in an article that was printed by Fox 59, ND Star, and CBS 4, and if accurate, it could confirm that Libby's phone was indeed recovered at the crime scene. An article from WTHR says audio from Libby German's cell phone was played for the victims' families, including a mention of a man they noticed behind them. A complication of this investigation is that because the trail area was being used as if it was a public space, the evidence collected could easily be unrelated to the case. It would be wrong to assume that all items collected ended up being related to this case. Please keep that in mind when you're discussing the physical evidence. From 75 yards away, I could see girls' clothing in Deer Creek east of the bridge, and knew full well that the girls were found very nearby. A newspaper photographer mentioned earlier in Evidence 5, named J. Kyle Keener, added a description to his Facebook photo album in which he describes what he could see in the creek on February 14, 2017. Sources tell Call 6 investigates that a set of footprints are what led investigators and volunteers to the area the bodies were found. This quote, which was mentioned earlier, references a set of footprints leading up to the bodies when the bodies were found for the first time by volunteers. Footprints can be casted and molded by forensic teams, and footprints can sometimes indicate approximate height and weight of a person. The quality and relevance of these footprints is unknown. Law enforcement has never spoken publicly in reference to specific named witnesses or sightings. They have vaguely confirmed there were multiple witnesses describing the process of creating the composite sketch. News sources have also never directly referenced witness sightings of the offender. Knowledge of the witness sightings is mainly given by the family of the deceased and through social media rumors. That is all for today, friends. Thank you for watching my channel's premiere video of the Delphi Murders, The Beginning, a Timeline. Please subscribe and press the notification bell so you get alerts when my next video comes out. I look forward to going in depth into the aspects of this case with all of you. Until next time, be safe always. Kristin, Behind the Crime Door.